Good afternoon. This is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding proposed 2023 election precinct maintenance plan. It is 3:34 p.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my right is Vice Chair Ty Menser. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. Also in the boardroom, we have County Manager Amira Chavez, as well as Clerk of the Board, Jamie Caldwell. The purpose of this public hearing is to accept and consider public testimony on the proposed 2023 election precinct maintenance plan in accordance with RCW 29A.16.040. Precinct boundaries may be altered at any time as long as sufficient time exists prior to a given election and that no precinct exceeds 1,500 active registered voters. The city of Lacey had one annexation, the city of Tumwater had several annexations, and one precinct is approaching the 1,500 active registered voter limit. This is a hybrid public hearing. Those wishing to testify have joined in person by Zoom, emailed comment, or mailed in comment. If you wish to testify, please visit the Thurston County homepage online and select announcements of public hearings on the left-hand side. The information to join this public hearing remotely has been posted there. If you do not wish to testify but would like to listen and follow along, please watch the live stream through the Thurston County YouTube channel. Auditor Mary Hall is joining us today, and she will be presenting this matter. And then, assuming members of the public on Zoom wish to testify, I will read your name out loud. You will have 4 minutes to testify. Time may not be given to another person. When you're called on, please state your name and address for the record, and the clerk of the board will review the timer. This public hearing is now open. Auditor Mary Hall will provide background information on the proposed amendment, written comments submitted for the public hearing, and any additional information. Auditor Hall, thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, commissioners. So we're in the process of performing our annual precinct maintenance, and we adjust our precinct boundaries annually. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can see you
We
too.
can see you.
The TV that you're on just came on and makes it a lot easier for us to see.
Okay, got it.
Sorry
So
for
we're in the
the
process of performing our annual precinct maintenance. We adjust precinct boundaries every year for a couple different reasons. Due to city annexations, if we have precincts nearing 1,500 active registered voters, and then of course, just to improve our precinct boundaries. So when cities annex land, we need to adjust the boundaries as well as the legal descriptions to ensure that we're complying with state law. On January 25th, during a work session, we presented to you the proposed changes for the precinct boundaries. And then on February 7th, you set this public hearing for today. And we've had this information posted to our website for review. So the public has had an opportunity to view these changes. But we're going to go through this again with you today to see if the public has any comments or questions. And Lynn Watanabe, who is my lead election technician, is going to lead the presentation and explain the proposed changes. So she will be sharing her screen.
Thank you, Auditor Hall. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
So again, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. We can see the screen.
Again, for the record, my name is Lynn Watanabe. I'm with the Thurston County Auditor's Office, Elections Division. I'm the lead election technician. As of today, we have not received any written comments about this plan. So I'll go ahead and start the presentation. So an overview, there are no changes to the boundaries of the 5 county commissioner districts that were approved in 2022. Thurston County currently has 292 voting precincts. And then again, in accordance with RCW, no changes may be made during the period starting 14 days prior to filing week, and no precinct may exceed 1,500 active registered voters. Also, in accordance with RCW, every voting precinct must be wholly within a single congressional district, a single legislative district, a single district of a county legislative authority, and if applicable, a single county. And every voting precinct must be composed as nearly as practical of contiguous and compact areas. This is just an overview of the 5 commissioner districts that were approved in 2022. That expanded, again, the county and the port commissioners from 3 to 5. So an overview of the changes that we are going to be making. There's 1 City of Lacey annexation and boundary adjustment. There are 5 City of Tumwater Island annexations and boundary adjustments. 2 precinct consolidations due to legislative district boundary changes, and 1 precinct adjustment due to the number of active voters nearing 1,500. The first area is the City of Lacey, Lake Loas Pacific Avenue annexation and precinct boundary adjustment. Kinwood West has approximately 160 voters, and the annexed area has approximately 38 voters. Lacey 33, approximate voter total 506. Lacey 15, approximate voter total 839. And for the boundary adjustment, Lacey 1, approximate voter total 529, with approximate voters in new precinct equaling 2. So for the annexation, we propose to split the annex portion of Kinwood West, north and south along Pacific Avenue. The annex area is outlined in the orange dotted lines. And to add the north portion to Lacey 33, approximate voters affected is 38, and adding the south portion to Lacey 15, which approximate voters affected is 0. So the new voter total for Kinwood West is 122. The new temporary voter total for Lacey 33 is 544. And the new voter total for Lacey 15 is 839. For the boundary adjustment, we just zoomed in to the same area. Lacey 1 has approximately 529 voters, and Lacey 33 now has approximately 544 voters. We're proposing to add the portion of Lacey 1 east of Carpenter Road to Lacey 33. Approximate voters affected is 2. So the new voter total for Lacey 1 is 527, and the new voter total for Lacey 33 is 546. The next area is the City of Tumwater, the Quince Street Island annexation. Quince has approximately 7 voters. The entire precinct was annexed, and Tumwater 12 has approximately 622 voters. So we're proposing to merge Quince into Tumwater 12. Again, approximate voters affected is 7, and retiring the Quince precinct. So the new voter total of Tumwater 12 is 629. The next annexation area is Linwood Avenue, Liberty Street, and Pioneer Avenue Island annexations. Simmons 4, approximately 40 voters. The entire precinct was annexed. Tumwater 3 has approximately 899 voters, and Tumwater 10 has approximately 1,149 voters. So we're proposing to split Simmons 4 north and south along Linwood Avenue, adding the north portion to Tumwater 3, approximate voters affected is 38, and adding the south portion to Tumwater 10, which has approximately 2 voters, and retiring the Simmons 4 precinct. So the new voter total of Tumwater 3 is 937, and the new voter total of Tumwater 10 is 1,151. The next annexation area in Tumwater is the Rural and Sap Road Island annexation, plus a precinct boundary adjustment. So Simmons 3, approximately 29 voters. The entire precinct was annexed. Tumwater 15, approximate voter total 1,056. Tumwater 10, approximate voter total 1,151. For the boundary adjustment area, Tumwater 3 has approximately 937 voters, and approximate voters in the new precinct is 26. So we're proposing to split Simmons 3 north and south along Linwood Avenue, adding the north portion to Tumwater 15, which has approximately 19 voters, and adding the south portion to Tumwater 10, which has approximately 10 voters, and retiring the Simmons 3 precinct. The new temporary voter total of Tumwater 15 is 1,075, and the new voter total of Tumwater 10 is 1,161. For the precinct boundary adjustment, Tumwater 3 has about 937 voters, and Tumwater 15 has approximately 1,075. So we're proposing to add the portion of Tumwater 15 east of Sap Road and south of Crosby Boulevard to Tumwater 3, approximately affecting 35 voters. So the new voter total of Tumwater 3 is 972, and the new voter total of Tumwater 15 is 1,040. Next is the city of Tumwater, the Trosper Lake Island annexation. Glenwood, which has approximately 252 voters, the entire precinct was annexed. Tumwater 10 has approximately 1,161 voters, and Tumwater 11 has approximately 963. They're proposing to split Glenwood north and south along the power lines. I'm adding the north portion to Tumwater 10, which approximately affects 57 voters, and adding the south portion to Tumwater 11, which approximately affects 195 voters, and retiring the Glenwood precinct. The new voter total of Tumwater 10 is 1,218. The new voter total of Tumwater 11, 1,158. I believe the last one is City of Tumwater, Dennis Street Island annexation and precinct boundary adjustment. Bush Prairie approximately has 2 voters, and the entire precinct was annexed. Tumwater 9 has approximately 629 voters, and for the precinct boundary adjustment, Tumwater 31 has approximately 915 voters, with approximately 2 voters affected. So merge the annexed precinct, Bush Prairie, into Tumwater 9, which again has about 2 voters, and retire the Bush Prairie precinct. The new temporary voter total of Tumwater 9 is 631. And as for the precinct boundary adjustment area, Tumwater 9 approximately 631 voters, Tumwater 31 approximately 915 voters. So adding the portion of Tumwater 9 east of Henderson Boulevard to Tumwater 31, approximately affecting 2 voters. So the new voter total of Tumwater 9 is 629, and the new voter total of Tumwater 31 is 917. For precinct consolidations, we have Lacey 52, which has about 2 voters, and Lacey 42, which has about 401. And the legislative district boundary change allows for consolidation of a small precinct, which will help with election administration. So we're proposing to merge Lacey 52 into Lacey 42, again affecting about 2 voters, and retiring the Lacey 52 precinct. The new voter total of Lacey 42 is 403. The second consolidation is Tumwater 29, which has about 0 voters, and Tumwater 11, which has about 1,158. Again, a legislative district boundary change allows for consolidation of a small precinct. So we're proposing to merge Tumwater 29 into Tumwater 11, affecting about 0 voters, and retiring Tumwater 29. So the new voter total of Tumwater 11, 1,158. And we have 1 precinct boundary adjustment, Evergreen Ballroom. It has approximately 1,333 voters. We're proposing to split it because of a new apartment complex. So the approximate number of voters in a new precinct is 383. Proposing to split Evergreen Ballroom north and south along Pacific Highway Southeast. The portion north to be named Evergreen Ballroom North and given a new precinct number. And the portion south to be renamed Evergreen Ballroom South and retain the current precinct number of 33. Again, there's a new 256 unit apartment complex that's going in. So the voter total of the new Evergreen Ballroom North is 383, and the new voter total of Evergreen Ballroom South, 950. And again, no changes to the commissioner district boundaries. Oh, did you have a comment?
No, go ahead and finish your presentation, Lynn.
Okay. So again, no changes to the commissioner district boundaries, no voter total change for the commissioner districts. Our proposed 2023 precinct count is 286. Approximate voters affected, 783. Number of voting precincts split was 1. Number of voting precincts added was 1. Legal descriptions added was 1. Voting precincts repealed due to City of Tumwater Island annexations is 5. Voting precincts repealed due to precinct consolidations is 2. Legal descriptions repealed due to City of Tumwater Island annexations was 5. And repealed due to precinct consolidations was 2. Number of voting precincts name changed is 1. Number of precinct boundary adjustments due to City of Lacey annexation and precinct boundary adjustments is 4. Boundary adjustments due to City of Tumwater Island annexations and precinct boundary adjustments is 7. Boundary adjustments due to precinct consolidations is 2. And boundary adjustments due to precincts nearing 1,500 voters is 1. Precinct legal descriptions amended due to City of Lacey annexation and precinct boundary adjustments is 4. Legal descriptions amended due to City of Tumwater Island annexations and precinct boundary adjustments is 7. Legal descriptions amended due to precinct consolidations is 2. Legal descriptions amended due to precincts nearing 1,500 voters is 1. And Commissioner District legal descriptions amended, again, only in internal precinct changes, no boundary changes, and no voter total changes is 3. Any questions?
Thank you.
On the whole thing?
Yes.
You're ready for questions on everything?
Yes.
Okay, my questions, I don't know, I mentioned this the other day, I think, when we heard something about this. And I don't have any problem with you retiring Tumwater 29 and putting it in with 28 or whatever you're doing in that regard. My concern is you're seeming to be doing away with all the old historical names in our community. And the Bush Prairie, you're retiring Bush Prairie, one of the older areas in our community with real historic significance. And I don't know, you did keep a couple things like Evergreen Ballroom, which if you grew up around here, I could tell you a lot of bad things happened at Evergreen Ballroom, but you kept that and you got rid of George Bush. So I'm curious what's going on. I know it just kind of came to me going through this whole thing. We're I don't know, we're knocking these people off and going to numbers. And I have to say I'm an old timer. And I kind of object to that because I think it affects our communities as we refer to where we're from or where we're at. So see if you can handle that one, Mary.
So we still have the names, but we live in a digital society and names don't work well with databases. So, so we do number everything, but city precincts, and help me out, Lynn, city precincts are numbered like Tumwater 57, right? So that historical name does go away, but that's due to city annexations, and it's the naming convention that we use for all of our precincts. Do you have anything to add, Lynn? So they're going away because cities are annexing land.
Okay, but I mean, still, there's some of these are a number and a name. So I'm just.
Those are in unincorporated Thurston County.
Well, is Bush Prairie also fall under that? I mean, I hate to see that go away. So I don't know if
So-
I don't know if I've got enough say to make it stop, going away, but it bugs me that we kind of knock off our historical locations.
Yeah, actually, all precincts have a number and a name.
Why can't we keep the name and the number? Some you do
So-
and some you don't.
Well, it's because when they're annexed into a city, it would become, say, Tumwater 15. So what that identifies is that that precinct is within that city. So Lacey 54, for example. So,
Well, like if it was Bush Tumwater 15 or something like that. I don't know. I know this isn't even a battle worth fighting, but it really bugs me that our history gets ate up in the process of moving forward. I don't know. I'll hear what my seatmates got to say about it, but I'm not gonna break my pick over it. It's just that it bugs me.
Thank you. Commissioner Menzer?
Well, that's funny because I had a series of questions like Commissioner Edwards, but from a totally different angle. I understand that the cities have numbers and all the county ones have names. And I was actually gonna ask if that was our decision or if that was state law, and I was gonna commend that if it's your decision to keep the names, because I agree with Commissioner Edwards, I think it's cool to have the names. Like last week or last time, I didn't know what Evergreen Ballroom was. People heard me say that, and I got emailed like 5 articles about the history of Evergreen Ballroom. And now I know all this crazy stuff that he was referring to that happened there. And someday I'm gonna find out why I live in Broadway 136. I'm sure there's a cool story about that. That's my precinct. So my questions, I'll just go in order. Who decides that the cities have numbers and no names and the county has names and numbers? Did you decide that, Thurston County Auditor, or does state law say if you're municipal, you have to have a number? Only a number?
I really don't know the answer to that because this system has been in place before I took office in 2013.
Okay, and then like with Commissioner Edwards' question, I think it's just an artifact. A few of the names are gonna be lost as they get annexed, just because we have that dual system. So I don't have any heartburn over that, really, as long as we keep our county precincts named. And then, one thing I asked about last time, I just want to remind myself if I was remembering this right. If we retire, first of all, you used the word repeal and retire. Is that the same thing? There's no term of art there when you say repealing a voting precinct or retiring a voting precinct?
Correct, because we're going to be retiring the precinct and repealing it from county code.
Okay, and when we do that, let's say it's Tumwater 12, we don't renumber everything, right? Tumwater 12 just doesn't exist. I asked that last time, which is confusing, but for historical purposes, you said it needed to just remain an empty precinct or an empty
Right. So,
number.
for example, you wanted to go back and pull precinct data from 2018. You don't want to renumber precincts because then you can't match up data.
Even though the precincts do shift from time to time,
Right. So,
but it helps you a little bit to look at the
yes,
same number.
yes, it would be very confusing. And just to go back to names versus numbers, it is up to the individual county because I know I spent 17 years in Pierce County and we never had precinct names. It was all numbers.
All right, well, let's stick with our names for the unincorporated. I'm with Commissioner Edwards on that part.
Well, that's why we have both. You have to have numbers because
All
our
right,
voter registration database will only support numbers.
right.
I have to say, I have no complaint with the numbers, but I do, I mean, here, we're in the middle of Black History Month last month, I think it was, and we're gonna knock off Mr. Bush now. He's one of our founding fathers. I just can't, I can't take it. I don't see a need for it, so I'm gonna object. I think it's terrible that we're doing that.
Well, Commissioner Edwards, we have all of this historical data. It never goes away.
Well, yeah, but the community, once the community name goes away, it dies out and goes away. And I just think that's the pits, when our communities start going all tech and nothing personal anymore, not recognizing our forefathers for what they did. So I'm gonna be a kind of a bugaboo about this. I just, I don't understand why. I can't, a lot of questions in this about, I just don't get why we have to do it.
I see what you say. I mean, I know I'm Smith Lake Precinct, and I don't know if someone asked me the number for it, I would be like, I have no idea. So I just remembered kind of,
My family came here when Mr. Bush came here. And it just bugs me that we're gonna erase our history. I just don't like erasing our history, that's all.
is that the only George Bush precinct?
Yep.
There's not like
Bush Prairie. we named
Bush
after-
Prairie?
It's Bush Prairie named after him, that's
Yeah.
all. His homestead was there,
Right.
right across the road from the airport.
Right.
And the airport too.
And there's a little monument there too.
There is a
That
little
didn't,
monument
that didn't go
there.
away.
Yeah, there's some gopher habitat there too.
I'll just say, Commissioner Edwards, if you're relying on the names of voter precincts to preserve Thurston County history, we're in trouble. 'Cause I can't remember.
I didn't
have no
realize
idea
we were
what the
that
precinct-
important.
Oh, well, to old timers, it probably is, that's the only, my demographic might think it's important. It just bugs me that pretty soon, we're all gonna just be a number. Anyway, that's just my personal feelings. Put it out there on Front Street.
When I went to the new Last Word Books location on downtown, front and center is our Thurston County history book that we promoted. It's got all kinds of good stuff in there, so
Good book. That's a very good book.
much probably better way to promote ourselves than our voter precinct names.
It's another way we could partner with the Park Foundation in the history, you know? I'll add that extra tidbit now that we're.
Too soon, Commissioner.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards,
Public
anything?
comment.
Why don't we just hold, we don't have to vote on this today, do we?
No, we're gonna open it up for public comment and then,
Is there a time frame?
I will refer the time frame to the county auditor.
What's the time frame, Mary?
Well, the sooner they're final, the sooner we can do our work. And we do have an April election that involves Tumwater. So to be able to finalize those precincts, so they're final for that election would be very helpful. So as soon as possible, please.
Today.
We're having a meeting on Thursday, the three of us, aren't we?
Is there a reason you need extra time or?
I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out why we have to do it. Could we,
Right,
why we have to eliminate all the names? I'll get 100 people to call you up and say it's a bad idea. I really didn't, I wasn't paying any attention to this until now. And I see every one of them are kind of retired. But it really got me when it's Bush. When Bush is retired, right in the middle of Black History Month, I think that sucks. So I'll just
Yeah.
put it that way.
well, that was because of the city annexations, but the monument is still there. It's just no longer an unincorporated or Thurston County, so,
That's okay.
but
My
we really
seat
would
mates are more
appreciate
modern.
adoption soon, so we can define our election. Because we do need to update our database.
Okay.
okay, let's move to public testimony. I didn't have anyone on the sign-up sheet. I'll see if there's any. Mr. John Pettit, go ahead.
I didn't know I was going to be making testimony at such a interesting comment process, but first of all, clearly, Mr. Edwards has reminisced about his past and long living time frame and everything, but sometimes we got to get over it. I just hate the fact that I have numbers on roads that was 148th, but it had a different name before. So now you're changing my names and my roads, wiping out the history, and you know what? It's part of the process. I don't really even know how the auditor, with all these different, a lot of these districts are all about taxing districts. How you take a taxing district and continue to identify it in so many different fashions. How many different taxing districts are there right here in the total of Thurston County, including the incorporated areas? Tremendous amount. And so I guess I will encourage Commissioner Edwards to get over it. We have to be moving forward. And it's okay if you want to go out. I'm sure people would be happy if you want to post some signs that says Bush in different spots or Evergreen Ballroom in different spots. But I want to commend the auditor's office for getting this dealt with in a quick and immediate fashion. And, you know, every time you have a different precinct, you have to create a whole new ballot just for that precinct. So therefore, what they've done is by realigning things, they've made the easier process. They've eliminated some of the multiple different things that they'd have to deal with. So I'm going to give a thumbs up and suggest you accept this immediately because you're going to have to eat your green beans sometime here as they're served to you. It's just the way life is. So I'm all thumbs up with what I heard today. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else in the boardroom.
I'm gonna call the name that I don't recognize is Mr. Greg Schumbuckler. Provide testimony in this public hearing related to the precinct adjustments.
Okay, this is Greg Schulberger. I have no comment on that.
Thank you. Public
Okay.
testimony.
So this will conclude our public hearing, or our public testimony period. Next, any discussion?
No, I've said enough. I think the democratic process is going to win here. But it's just, I have to just let the old timers know I'm still sticking up for them, that's all.
Commissioner,
Mary, thank you. Wish I had a better understanding of it.
You're very welcome.
Commissioner Menzer?
Nope, I'm good.
I guess this is a, if you don't want your name to change, don't be annexed kind of conversation.
Well, we don't have any Edwards precincts that I'm aware of, so it's all about way back when. Yep.
Okay, so are you ready to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
aye.
Commissioner Menzer? Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Next is a motion to adopt the ordinance, and are we ready to move forward?
I move to approve the ordinance for the proposed legal description and precinct boundary changes, updating 13 precincts with boundary line adjustments and creating one new precinct, and repealing 7 precincts, and approve the ordinance for the proposed legal descriptions for the commissioner districts.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
My only discussion will be that I know the democratic process, so I know what's going to take place, and I have no heartburn with that. I kind of have a hard time voting against my ancestors. And Mr. Bush was the first black person in the county, and here we are trying to recognize and we're getting him off the map. And I don't want to go there, but I appreciate the position of my new and young seatmates.
So one of the proposals made to me while I was with my daughter at the Black History presentation was, why don't we take that and find a place to make it a permanent installation in the county where we could really feature George Washington Bush, our ancestors, so that we can work together on some kind of a project like that.
Yeah, I'd be very much for that. I'm all about history. Thank you.
Again, I guess I'll bring up the Park Foundation and There's an opportunity there to tie in our culture and our arts and be able to fund those kind of historical projects.
You'll probably get a second.
I'm sure there are many people appreciating that comment, Commissioner.
Okay, so it's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Nay.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. And I just want to thank Mary and her staff for their work on this. I know that your staff works really hard to really show this information to all of us and make sure that we're up to date. So with that, this public hearing is now closed.
Thank you very much. Yes, they do a fantastic job. Thank you for recognizing them.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Auditor Hall.
You're welcome.
Moving on to our next public hearing, and this public hearing is for the Development Code Docket Item A-18, Agricultural Activities Critical Areas Update. This public hearing is to accept comment on proposed amendments to the Thurston County Code related to agricultural activities critical areas. Following the public hearing, the Board of County Commissioners will have the option to take a final action after considering public testimony. Alternatively, the Board of County Commissioners may request a follow-up work session prior to taking a final action. This is a hybrid public hearing. Those wishing to testify have joined in person, by Zoom, emailed comment, or mailed comment. If you wish to testify, please visit the Thurston County homepage online and select announcements of public hearings on the left-hand side. The information to join this public hearing remotely has been posted there. If you do not wish to testify but would like to listen and follow along, please watch the live stream through the Thurston County YouTube channel to help us manage attendance. Ashley Arai, our Agricultural Community Program Manager, will present this matter. Assuming members of the public on Zoom wish to testify, I will read your names out loud. You will have 4 minutes to testify. Time may not be given to another person. When you're called on, please state your name and address for the record. The clerk of the board will review the timer. The public hearing is now open. Ashley Arai will now present background information, written comments submitted, and any additional information requested by the board.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As was mentioned, today's hearing is for Development Code Docket Item A-18, that's the Agricultural Activities Critical Areas Update. The proposal considers amendments to Thurston County Code Chapter 1715, that's the Agricultural Activities Critical Areas Chapter, as well as Thurston County Code Title 24, that's the Critical Areas Ordinance. These updates are to integrate with the county's approved voluntary stewardship program work plan and establish a conservation planning option for any new agricultural activities and facilities not covered by that work plan. This item is a board-initiated proposal and is a key component of CPA 16, the Community-Driven Review of Agricultural Policies and Programs, and supports Strategic Plan Initiative Number 7. The Planning Commission reviewed this item at 2 work sessions that were held on July 20th and October 5th, 2022. A public hearing was held before the Planning Commission on November 2nd of last year to accept public testimony. And following that public hearing, the Planning Commission voted 9-0 to recommend approval of the Agricultural Activities Critical Areas Update. No written comments were received during the Planning Commission review process. The board was then briefed this year on January 11th, at which time the board directed staff to bring forward an agenda item summary to request a public hearing on the Planning Commission recommendation. On February 2nd, a public notice was published in the Olympian, and email notification was sent to interested parties, as well as posting information online. We've received no comments to date on the proposal, and if the board wishes, they may take action on the proposed code amendments following the close of the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Ashley, Commissioner Edwards?
And you did say 9-0 from the planning commission, right? Thank you.
Questions from, okay. I don't have any questions. You have any? Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to public testimony. We'll start with in-person first, and John Pettit.
I become involved with this because my name's John Pettit. I live in East Olympia. Because I obviously deal with people and planning and development and projects. This particular docket item, as I understand, should improve the ability for people who have agricultural properties to be able to fit within the category of agricultural elements. The issues, of course, that I'm going to bring up is there is concern from me, and I don't know the particular part. I have to appreciate a 9-0 vote from the Planning Commission that the designation of a property being agricultural and being able to utilize an agricultural critical area ordinance is significant. And when I say it's significant, rather than relaying directly about one of my clients who have run into a question mark before about their property and the use of their property, and because they have residential homes on this property, is it residential as in that type of standing, or is it agricultural when it exists within the agritourism, designated agritourism area, which allows them to use that designation under county code? And so the clarity of the issue, and perhaps a little more information can tell, is this, is that I think that the application aspect, if there was a boundary to say, well, what's agricultural? Well, I'd have to think that anything above 3 acres that someone's making a mini farm or other agricultural elements to it needs to be able to be considered within the scope of a agricultural critical area ordinance. Because the other critical area ordinance is much more extensive and limiting for being able to use your property. So my concern is, once again, designation. Who does this apply to? Who it doesn't apply to? Who has the ability? Is somebody with 8 acres going to be able to use it? And I use that number because under agritourism, if you're within the designated area, you have to have a minimum of 10 acres to be able to utilize the agritourism designation as a use of your property. But I happen to believe that a lot of people will be aiming towards starting to be much more agricultural direction and more oriented to the idea that they want to be able to use and grow. And sometimes when you're growing, a lot of our best agricultural lands, our soils and everything, were created through floods and the flooding process, such as even on my own property, I have a large floodplain. It used to grow strawberries there. In fact, somebody went metal hunting and they found a 2-cent piece from 1864 out there in the ground because somebody was harvesting. Probably Mr. Bush was over at my house picking strawberries. I don't know. But the bottom line is that people need to have the right to use their property the best they can. And nobody that I know that owns property ever intends to be destructive. So I'm encouraging, broaden the category of what agriculture can be. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't have anyone else in the boardroom.
Question when you get.
Okay, let's move on to Zoom and then
Yeah.
if we can move on to Zoom.
Yeah, I'm going to call again to Mr. Greg Schombuckler. Do you like to provide testimony on this particular item?
This is Greg Schombuckler. I would not. Sorry for, I think maybe I signed up by accident.
Okay, thank you. So that will conclude public testimony, Madam Chair.
Okay. So with that, that will conclude the public testimony. Next discussion Commissioner Edwards, you said you had a question?
I guess maybe I could ask Ashley this, or maybe somebody here in staff. What's unique about July 24th, 2012? A lot of things are referenced if it took place before or after. What is that?
The critical areas ordinance was adopted on July 24th, 2012. So the establishment of Title 24 and all the critical areas regulations that would apply to farms here in the county.
Maybe getting to what Mr. Pettit was talking about when it talks about agriculture, with the definition. Is that affected by that critical area ordinance? The definition, is it affected if they were doing something before 2012 versus after 2012?
So if it's before 2012, essentially, if it was existing and ongoing and they established that farm before July 24th, 2012, it would fall under the county's voluntary stewardship program. And what the proposal before you today allows for is more flexibility for a farm that might not have been established before 2012, but wants to be established now. This offers a conservation planning approach rather than just a straight application of Title 24.
And I'm asking this about a specific issue. How long of a period of a lapse of maybe, okay, let's say a dairy farm. The dairy farmer went broke because of the economy. 10 years later, a new venture takes place on that property. But it was a farm, a lot of farm practices were taking place, but there was a break in there. How is that affected? How far back do we go? Because this property has been agriculture all these years. Then there's a break, now something else, maybe ag, maybe not, but somebody else wants to make it ag. So now, how does that take place?
That's a great question. So under state law and subsequent court cases, 5 years is kind of the recognized amount of time that land can lay fallow. There's some exceptions to that, but in the update that is before you, it has a 5-year kind of window. There can be extenuating circumstances, and we would be able to take a look at those, but that's kind of the generally accepted date in the state.
Who makes the exception with the extenuating circumstance?
I don't know if you have more insight into that, Andy, in working on with the Department of Ecology, but it would be like they've had it for sale or they have it in a conservation easement.
Somebody died, went through an estate, whatever.
It could, they would have to make that case, but yeah, I think it's, that 5 years is a number that's in the code. And then there are, even within that, there's allowances for things that have been set aside in conservation easements and whatnot.
I know water rights are a big issue on this right now. You may have held a water rights for a long period of time. Then there's a family tragedy and the water doesn't get used and the ecology takes it away from you. I know there's been some court cases about that. So that's why I'm kind of asking about these few incidental things here. Let me ask you this. Is there a push or a date certain that we need to do this? Like, is next week just as good as this week? Are we up against a deadline? Are we getting fined or we're out of compliance or?
No, none of those situations exist. I think it's more that this has been something that's been on the docket for a long time and that farmers in the county will want to take advantage of potentially, especially as it relates to conservation projects and cost share projects under the VSP program. But no hard deadline.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion on this?
I guess my further discussion, no, not for Ashley, I'm sorry. Would be, there are a couple of unknowns here that the answer is, well, we don't know for sure or something. On this issue, maybe when we close, we could bring this up next week or something for a vote. Is there any timeline issue with the county manager?
I can bring this matter next Tuesday morning for your direction. If that is.
I guess that's the only thing I'd ask is, I don't like to move forward on things when there's a doubt about this or that maybe could be clarified.
Okay. Commissioner Mensah?
That's fine. I'm not 100% sure about the doubt because I was 9-0 planning commission
yes.
vote and there was no public comment. You obviously have a doubt and I haven't quite understood what it is, but I'm happy to give you time to resolve that doubt.
Thank you, sir.
There's no rush.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mensah? Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. This matter will be brought up next Tuesday at its agenda setting.
March 7, under public hearings and items to discuss, I will bring this matter at that time.
Okay, so more to come. So with that, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you all.